Now, the international break is nearly over, and I thought it's about time to start thinking about my own FPL team now. I'm 271k overall as things stand, and in this video, I'm going to talk you through my transfer plans for Game Week 12. Alright, so we'll just have a quick look at how my team got on, just to set the scene in terms of my ranking stuff. So I scored 40 points back in Game Week 11, which feels like it's almost a lifetime ago now with everything that's happened since then. We obviously had no clean sheets from my defenders, 1 pointers from Gabriel and Raya, 2 from Senesi, 3 from Anderson, blanks from a few of my midfielders, Bruno Fernandes with an assist, Saka with a goal, Semenyo missing a penalty. I feel quite aggrieved by that, so for him to end on 0 points. Enzo with nothing. Mateta with a blank. Haaland with a goal, but he missed a penalty too. And then I had Mark Gahey, who didn't start because he got injured at the Europa Conference League. So basically, I had 2 missed penalties and a player that no one knew was injured not starting for me. So luck didn't really go my way so much in Game Week 11, but I still scored 40 points. My rank's okay. I don't think anyone really had a really, really high scoring game week in game week 11. So that's probably why my rank stayed somewhat where it was before. Now, I just wanted to very quickly talk to you about the FPL Cartel before I get into my team, because I think it's a relevant topic to bring up now. We'll be in the Discord talking about our teams and helping you with yours all throughout the week. And you can join the FPL Cartel Discord, and we'll do an exclusive weekly podcast on Wednesday as well. You can do that with a 30-day free trial using the link in the description below. All right, well, here's how my team is currently looking then going into Game Week 12. And it's a rather sorry state of affairs at the moment. So we've got 3 free transfers and 0.4 million in the bank. Raya, I think he's just going to keep place in goal. I think I've got bigger fires to put out in my team than worrying about is David Raya the best third Arsenal asset this week. Raya and Gahey, Gabriel and Gahey both potentially injured, and obviously Enzo Fernandez carrying a flag as well. The big news here for me is obviously Gabriel. He's, I think, outside of Haaland, literally the second best player in FPL right now, considering, you know, how many clean sheets Liverpool are keeping, how much goal threat he's offering, the DEFCONs he's scoring. He's just ridiculous, isn't he? But unfortunately, he limped off of the Brazil game against Senegal. That was yesterday at the time I'm recording this video, on Saturday for you if you're watching this a bit later. What looked like it could be an adductor injury in his groin. Now, we've got here a report from FPL Physio. I quite like looking at FPL Physio. I don't know if they have any medical qualifications, but they seem to do a fair view of what's happened in particular injury incidents, if that makes sense, before the player gets their official prognosis or diagnosis. And it certainly looks like Gabriel was damaged his adductor. I think, you know, even I would agree with that, not being a medical expert. I've seen this injury in a few players. I don't think he's going to be, personally, I also don't think he's going to be fit for Game Week 12. But that obviously begs the question, you know, how long will he be out for? And it's really a mix, to be honest. If it's a grade 1 tear, it's maybe 1 to 3 weeks. If it's anything more serious, you're looking at sort of anywhere between 4 and 8 weeks to get better. My club captain at Bristol City, the club that I follow at the, well, I say follow at the moment, I get a little bit of abuse because I follow Man United from the Premier League, and then my local team is Bristol City, who I have a season ticket for. But our captain, anyway, is an Irishman named Jason Knight, and he did his adductor 8 weeks ago in a very similar fashion to what happened to Gabriel. So it took him 8 weeks to recover. So there's an idea. I think if we get any sort of news that it's not looking great for Gabriel, I think he's going to go, because he's not just going to miss 1 week with that injury, I don't think. And I'm looking at Liverpool. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm looking at Liverpool, and I'm not necessarily backing them defensively to the hills. I don't think they're anywhere near the best defence in the league. But what I am looking at is a set of games here where I think they could turn their season and form around a little bit. Forest at home, West Ham away, Sunderland at home, Leeds away, and Brighton at home. And then beyond that, the fixtures are really good for Liverpool as well. They got Tottenham away in 17, but then 18 they got Wolves, Leeds, and Fulham. The fixtures are decent. For me, though, there's only really one asset from Liverpool that I'd actually want in my team. You know, I look at that Liverpool squad and I think, well, I could have a bit of Mo Salah, but he's way too expensive to be considering if you're not captaining him, and I certainly won't be captaining him. Defenders, I mean, Konate looks decent, but he's not all that much cheaper than Van Dijk. And Van Dijk is just, He's one of the best defenders in world football, as we know. Not necessarily been on the best of his form this season, but he's offering more goal threat than Konate is, in my mind. And he's also one of the top scoring defenders in the game for defensive contribution points. So with all of that in mind, I think if Gabriel's confirmed out, I think if Gabriel's out for just game week 12, right, and it's not that serious at all, I'll probably just bench him. Because if you go back to my bench, I've got Joachim Andersen sat on there. And to be fair, Joe Rodon, who's playing Villa at home. So if push comes to like absolute shove, they could both come in for me. But particularly Andersen, I would not have too much discomfort starting Joachim Andersen over Gabriel if Gabriel's only out for 1 week. And that leads me on quite nicely to talking about Mark Gahey. So he has left the England camp to continue the rehab from his foot injury. As I said when talking through the points my team scored, Glasner confirmed before the game kicked off in game week 11 against Brighton, wasn't it they played, that he sustained a bruise to one of the bones in his foot, and he was actually moving around on crutches after the game, and he was still on crutches, I think, did Palace play on the Sunday in game week 11? So the game was Thursday, and he was still on crutches on Sunday. He got picked by England, I think, purely because, he's probably the best English centre-back. Is that fair to say at the moment? I think based on current form. But unfortunately for Gahey, he's had to return to Crystal Palace, which makes me wonder, it may be only a bruise on his foot, but that obviously means he's not fit to play today. He's obviously not in the squad to play the England game today. And it makes me wonder, is he going to be fit for game week 12? Now, it's not the end of the world, to miss 1 week, but I also have another injured defender who might also be missing 1 week. And when I went for Mark Gahey, I did have second thoughts about it because, he might be like the top scorer and one of the best defenders in the game in terms of points so far. But I don't know if he actually is, in my opinion, the best Crystal Palace defender. Like, pound for pound, I think Chris Richards could be right up there. Yes, he doesn't really offer any of the kind of attacking threat that Mark Gahey does. But he's only 4.5 million and he's hitting 10.6 DEFCON per 90. He is definitely better for DEFCON points than Mark Gahey is. He's obviously not injured at the moment. And I really like the Crystal Palace fixtures, and he's cheaper. So there's a couple of defenders that are issue points in my team, but I have an exact plan for what I want to do with them if they're not able to play. Gabriel could quite easily become Van Dijk, and if it's a relatively long-term injury you know what I mean about Gahey, right? I could also move him on for Chris Richards if I want to get rid of him too. There is one very rogue way that this game week could pan out, though, and it doesn't involve using any free transfers at all. With Gabriel being injured, Mark Gahey being flagged, and also, by the way, I have Enzo Fernandez in my midfield who's flagged at the moment. So I have 3 flagged players, and, this is a repeat of what I've shared in previous videos going into game week 12. You're also looking at Haaland, who might not be the best captain. There is a genuine case to think that Newcastle away is quite a tough fixture. It might be one where, you might want to alternate from Haaland captaincy. And with that in mind, I think Salah could be the best captain for game week 12. So I've got 3 players who are flagged. I could, potentially hop on another player to captain, and I wouldn't want Salah in my team long term. It's literally just for game week 12. And I think that sets things up quite nicely to potentially use a free hit. And I think if I was on a free hit in game week 12, the team I'd build would look something maybe like this. I'm in 2 minds as to whether I'd go for Igor, Thiago or Szoboszlai, whether I play a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2 like this. So I think I might consider Thiago as well. But this is probably what I go for. A Petrovic in goal. I'd maybe stick with David Raya. Munoz, Van Dijk and Senesi as the back line. I think that's pretty solid. Crystal Palace playing Wolves, who are probably the bottom team in the Premier League at the moment. The only worry I'd have with Wolves is certainly you picking Crystal Palace players against them is I think they'll probably up their game under Rob Edwards they're going to have a new manager bounce in my mind. But I still just think with Munoz's ridiculous attacking threat, and obviously Palace being fairly solid defensively, I'm going to go for him. Midfield 5 of Salah, Semenyo, Bruno Fernandes and Mbeumo. Those are the 4 I'm absolutely sure of. And then I've picked Szoboszlai because I like him as an option in FPL, and he's one that was on my shortlist. But I don't think I would pick him long term because he's on 4 yellow cards. But if he's on 4 yellow cards, that doesn't necessarily mean he's not an option for game week 12. So I picked him for that reason. But I do also think there's a very, very genuine opportunity to pick Igor Thiago from Brentford too. And then I'd have no Haaland and I'd go for Mateta and João Pedro up front, both playing the two of the weakest teams in the league. And this would get a 96% AI rating, 67.7 predicted points, and it's only worth 99.3 million. So, yeah, all that in mind, there's just so much I could potentially do with my team, and we haven't even got to a few other transfers that I'm considering at the moment. But yeah, a free hit is another way to play it, right? 3 injured players. Might not have full faith that Haaland's the best captain this week. I think free hit's a genuine option on top of those 2 moves that I already spoke about. I covered him briefly when talking about the free hit team, but I think it's just beyond the free hit, to be honest. Igor Thiago is looking like a really good option in FPL at the moment. And I think with my team in particular, I'm very, very happy with 4 of my 5 midfielders. Saka, Semenyo, Bruno Fernandes, Iliman Ndiaye. I'm happy with all of those. And to be honest, I know Iliman Ndiaye will be off to AFCON, but you get the 5 transfers when it happens, so I can just move him on quite easily. There's one that has been really disappointing me, and that's Enzo Fernandez. He's obviously got Burnley away this week, but then he plays Arsenal at home in game week 13, and he is actually flagged at the moment for a potential injury too. We'll see if we get an update on Enzo Fernandez as the week goes on. But I mentioned Igor Thiago when I spoke about my free hit team. I just think I could change the formation of my team and bring him in. So if I just go quickly, keep flicking screens, just go back to my team. So I could do Enzo Fernandez to Thiago. Thiago's 6.3 million. Enzo's selling price for me would be 6.7. And then I'd probably just replace Enzo Fernandez with Freddie Potts. So I'd get Krupa Jr. out for Igor Thiago, and then Freddie Potts most likely in for Enzo, or Josh King from Fulham, and then just have them sitting on my bench. I do think that's a move that I'm looking to make, certainly in game week 13. It's just whether it's worth selling Enzo Fernandez ahead of him playing Burnley away. And also, is that a priority move considering I have 2 defenders who are potentially out injured? I guess what it does mean with the 3 free transfers I've got, I could make one move in order to get rid of Gabriel, bench Gahey, and then do the Thiago move, and that would be using my 3 transfers, and then I'd still have plenty in the bank. Food for thought there, but I am looking at Igor Thiago, and I've certainly, patience is running thin for me with Enzo Fernandez. I was going to say my patience is running thin with this guy as well, but I think Antoine Semenyo has built up enough credit in the bank since he's been in my FPL team that I'm probably going to stick by him for the time being. But it's fair to say that his form and general dangerousness has dropped off, right? So this is the numbers from his last 4 appearances. Just the 1 assist. He may have put up 0.98 XG, but I'm pretty sure a penalty is 0.79, and obviously he missed his last penalty. So that's 4 games where from open play he's put up like less than 0.2 XG. So he's been really, really quiet from open play in recent weeks, and that is a worry. But he's got West Ham, Sunderland and Everton in his next 3. So whilst his form might have dropped off, the fixtures are still good. And, well, I'm going to talk about it anyway. There's one player around his price point that is not performing badly at all, and that's Bryan Mbeumo. He's 8.5 million, scored 4 goals in his last 4 games. Chalk and cheese difference to what Semenyo has put up in terms of numbers, right? But Mbeumo's off to AFCON in a few weeks' time. Again, I don't think that makes a massive difference with my transfers. I'll say that. That's fair enough. I'm going to get 5 for AFCON to deal with it. But I also feel like these kind of luxury moves where you sell one good player who you know is going to play every game, and they are a good player and a good asset, they're just sort of dipping in and out of form, for another one that seems to be the form pick at the moment, those kinds of moves in FPL just never seem to work for me. So whilst I'm also considering Semenyo to Bryan Mbeumo, and I've got the cash, I think, to do it, not sure it's quite worth it this week. So there's plenty going on in my head at the moment as to what I could potentially do with my team. I guess stand by for my team selection later on in the week to see what I end up actually doing. But yeah, I think all of these thoughts are rational. All of these moves are ones I think I should be considering. But I think it all just comes down to the fitness of Gabriel and Gahey to see which ones I actually have to make, if that makes sense. Alright, well that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. If you did, please leave us a like rating. Let me know in the comments if you've got any different suggestions for my team. I think those are the sensible transfers and things that I consider, some of which have changed since before the international break started, given the injuries that we've got, and some of which are similar in the sense that I still really want to bring in Igor Thiago to my team. I was going to say I was going to fancy him then, but I was going to get clipped up. Yeah, I think that's everything. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Goal to Goal channel or use the right hand to point. We should be just here on your screen. And yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.